Good evening, greetings. Islam to you, my Moorish brothers and sisters, and Islam to you, my Aboriginal, indigenous brothers and sisters that lives on the continents of America. I am Dr. Matthews-Bey, an Aboriginal Moorish American, or can be considered as an American state citizen. It is still the same thing. And welcome to you. Well, I'm welcoming you this evening to the Dr. Matthews-Bey Unfiltered program here on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. And thank you for who tuning in live on the GMS Live Radio Guyana. And that's an application that's in the Play Store that you can find and you can download. It's an online radio. So before I start my program this evening, let me give you my 30 seconds of reasoning. Okay, thank you very much. I am back with you, and I'm happy to come to you live from the Corporation of Guyana out of the South American continent. And just to inform you constantly that Guyana is a corporation that is on my land, my ancestral land, which I have complete rights over. That is why I'm not a Guyanese. That is why I'm not a corporate state citizen. That is why I'm not a servant nor a slave, but I'm a free living soul. And I'm known as Noble Dr. Gavin Matthews-Bey. On the Dr. Matthews-Bey Unfiltered program here on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, on the online radio. I want to get straight into our discussion this evening. I had a wonderful time last evening, and we had a very fruitful discussion as a community of Aboriginal people. We discussed from major series of things in that meeting. That meeting was held on the lawns, as a matter of fact, or on the property of the African Museum here in the Corporation of Guyana. And we had a discussion that really catapulted into different areas. And I've sat among people that I deemed very learned, individuals who has degrees and masters and doctorates and all these things. And I sat and I listened to them. And I came to one conclusion. It doesn't matter how educated you are or how fortified you are within your knowledge, doing nothing with your knowledge becomes a very much waste of time. And the thing is that it amazed me to see very learned individuals not doing anything. I mean, we have constant meetings, but physically doing something, it is because of the level of fear that I sense in them. So from time to time, to those who are looking, you'll find that I lend a hand of umbrella for them to stand under, so they can gain shelter, so their voice can be heard here in the Dr. Matthews-Bey Unfiltered. And the reason why I did it is because I found out that it's necessary for me to do that. It's necessary for me to engage not only the conversation, but to engage that action, so my brothers and sisters can now speak out. They not only have a platform to let their voices be heard, but they have a platform so actions can be taken. And I say that to say this is that we had a lengthy full discussion on agriculture and aquaculture. And I've gotten to realize that over a period of a 10-year period between 2012 and 2022, 2012 and 2022, over that 10-year period, the pesticide or the, how should I put it over, the fertilizer that has been used to, to have a proper production of rice here in Guyana has been changed 263 times. I was even brought to the acknowledgement that the rice we eat is so heavily chemicalized, fertilized, that it is so dangerous to our health. It has increased cancer. And this is some the studies coming out of NARI, the National Agricultural Research Institute, that the rice that you eat in the Corporation of Guyana is so heavily chemicalized in the fertilizers that we use to grow the rice. That is so dangerous to our health. That is why in the Corporation of Guyana, its citizens or its subjects are not only they're troubling from what you call diabetes on a large scale, but a lot of them are having three things that they're troubling from: cardiac problems, prostate cancer, and diabetes. It's this particular precondition problem is the community of Guyanese or the population of Guyanese. These are one of the major problems in the medical industries that they're asking the medical institution to fix for them. But it's impossible. That is why they had to pass a bill in Parliament giving $60,000 every month to, I believe it's every month, I don't know for sure, to people who has to go get what's this thing you call it again? I'm trying to remember. Dialysis. Because Guyanese can't afford to find that money 3 times a week. It's 4,000. Dialysis has dropped from a margin of $30,000 for every session to roughly $10,000 for every session. So you could imagine you have to do that 3 times a week. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's 30,000. Then you have next week, you have another 30,000. So what's going to happen the following 2 weeks? By the time the end of the month, you're dead. So now we have a chronic situation, or we have you have an exploding medical situation that's going on in Guyana, in a Corporation of Guyana that a lot of us doesn't know about. And it's killing out our population. That's a fact. It is. And nobody's telling you about it. I had to go to a meeting last night to hear about it. I had to go to a meeting to hear about a member who's part of the National Agricultural Research Institute is talking about the heavily chemicalized products that they're using in our food system. Can you imagine that? No, they're even telling you that the seeds that NARI is providing for you to plant, it is such scientifically groomed that is known as a GMO, genetically modified operations. It's a GMO product. It's not naturally grown. It's not a seed from a naturally grown item. That means to say that even if you go to NARI or you go to the Ministry of Agriculture and you collect seeds to do planting. Those seeds were already doctored scientifically. So the kind of produce now we're growing in our country for you to eat is so terrible that you gotta ask now, uh this seed that this plant that you are getting, where you get this seed from? Is it a produce of Nari, or is it given or distributed from Nari or Ghana Ministry of Agriculture? Because you gotta find these things out. No, nothing comes from the Ministry of Agriculture that I can consider good. Because you know why? The seeds that they're getting to distribute so produce can happen in Guyana are coming from a foreign source, from a lab that has genetically modified products, which they implant in seeds that you will now sow in the soil to grow. So that means the plants that you'll be eating is already doctored, it's already duped. It makes no sense, it's no good. So they're waiting for the plant to grow. They're scientifically enhancing the seeds. So when you eat from it, you don't know what you're eating. Because when the seeds, whatever plant bursting from that seed or fruit, whenever it's grown, you don't know what you're eating. You tell yourself it's a naturally grown produce, but it's not. The things I sat down to digest last night is so gruesome. You just wouldn't believe that is happening. You got to ask yourself, am I safe? Really? Am I the living soul safe? Now you got to go around now looking for old fruit trees you know that growing in people's yard for a very long time. You got to go around now to kitchen gardens of people who have been planting for donkey years that don't depend on the Ministry of Agriculture for seeds and seedlings. So you can get from them. Because you still don't know what you're eating. Everything is so heavily chemicalized, even the chicken that they're growing, the feed that they're giving the chickens to eat from, are making, enhancing the reproductive system of the chicken. That you find now a chicken will accustomed to normally having at least 4.5 pounds, you got a 6 pound, 7 pound chicken. That's what's going on. And you're eating it. You are. The sad thing is that nobody knows what they're feeding you. Nobody knows what they're eating. And the only person who knows are those who are in those laboratory departments who are scientifically examining all these things and are quiet about it. Now, when I go into the market now, I got to ask people where these vegetables are from. Well, thank God for me. Well, yes, that when I go, they got a particular green sections I go to, and I ask for a particular woman who's out from Buxton. And all her vegetables, well, she doesn't last long. You gotta know when she comes out. Because all her natural grown produce doesn't last long. I mean, doesn't last long. I mean, she don't be out there all day selling. By the time she arrive within the next hour, if you don't turn up to buy her produce, you won't get any because it's already finished. I mean, she might be a little expensive more than some, but you get to see what you're buying. You really get to see what you're buying. Now, you have to go all the way now to some people who really want the right kind of produce to buy. you got to go all the way now to a place named Itika. Or if not Itika, you got to go to, what's this place? Behind Crabwood Creek. A lot of people don't know that there's a planting, there's a farmer's village behind Crabwood Creek. Lots of Rastafarians. A lot of people think there's a lot of Indian people living behind there. No. When you go beyond the Crabwood Creek, then you realize the kind of people who live behind there and farm, and their produce don't come to Georgetown. By the time it comes out of the farmland, it didn't even meet into the head of, by the entrance to Crabwood Creek. It's finished. It is. So now I'm saying this, and I'm unapologetically about it, is that if the Ministry of Agriculture knows what they're feeding you or what you're eating based upon produce, farmers' produce, it needs to be stated on the packet. So when you buy it, you can really look and you can see it marked GMO seedlings. So you know what you're buying. You know what you're planting to feed people. Because as far as I'm concerned now, the rice is no good, and what the guy said is completely right. The man said when you finish cooking your rice and you leave it in the pot for next day, and most people, 98% of the times, the rice springs water. The man says the chemicals that is coming out of that particular rice, it gets sappy and springs water. The man said if you leave rice back for another day, it isn't supposed to spring water. It's supposed to get hard and brisky because it's less chemicals. Now, the rice that you're eating is completely right. He's not lying. Sometimes 12 hours and even pass and the rice don't spring water and it's smelling because it's spoiled. Too much chemicals. The fertilizer that they're using to produce the rice, it's heavily chemicalized and it's dangerous to your health, dangerous to your consumption. If you ask me, we need to retreat to something that is worth the while eating, which I consider ground provision. Because I don't think they're much chemicalized, and most ground provisions are naturally grown. I strongly do not believe that it is. If there is some kind of chemicals added to it, then you got to know where you're buying it from. You definitely got to know where you're buying it from. But I chance the ground provision now, not the rice. Because most people now, especially children, are suffering from these three major chronic sicknesses. You got children now suffering from diabetes. You got boy children now suffering from prostate conditions. And then you have children suffering from cardiac conditions. It's because of the things that they're eating. Remember now, they have to take up your time in trying to get well. So whilst you take up your time trying to fight with your diabetes and your chronic ailments like the cardiac conditions or the prostate conditions, they're taking away your wealth. They're destroying you in order to take and extract what is yours. That's the fact. That is the fact. I'm going to be honest with everyone who's looking now. We got to wake up. We got to arise to the position, not wake up. We got to arise to that position. Your eyes has to be opened. Start purging yourself. I know what I'm telling you, the amount of poison in your system, you got to start someday. You have to start detoxing, taking yourself through a detoxination process. I know what I'm telling y'all. It's horrible to see these things are happening, but you need to start detoxing yourself, people. I know the little news today is about what's her name, Letitia Wright, coming to the corporation of Guyana in which she was born. But I was happy that she had a full 7 years under the PPP. So she knew why her parents would have, she knew why her family would have migrated to England. I sure they would have told her a lot. So apparently, like she's not coming here under the invitation of Air Fraud Ali. So they're sending the minister to maybe greet her when she comes off the plane this evening. So maybe they're looking at that particular purpose. But I'm saying to you, let's get real in our knowledge whilst we teach each other. Don't get too flustered of what is going on around you. It's an agenda. It's a propaganda. I'm not saying she is, but I'm saying what's going on around you now to distract you. It's an agenda and it's a propaganda to forge an agenda. But please, let us take cognizance of what is going on now in our lives. Too many things happening in the area. Too many things happening. There's a struggle for power within one group of people, and they mean they can murder any amount of people just to attain power. And there's a struggle for unity within another group of people. But when all these things are happening, we are being diverted to things that doesn't matter the most, because they're still trying their best to divide us. But look what is happening in our dietary system. Now rice is no good. Doesn't matter if it's been made in Guyana, it's no good. The produce of Guyana, the rice that we consuming right now, it is no good. It is of no use. It is not good for human consumption. And we need to comprehend that we can't think like that, because when we think like that, now we become primitive, that we got to eat to survive. No, we don't have to eat to survive. Eating is a process of surviving and living. But it's time you start, it is time we start telling you the truth. When you eat, you have to wait at least 6 to 12 hours for that food to digest before you can eat again. But a lot of us doesn't want to do that, because we feel somehow our immune system gonna collapse. You have to start practicing doing the right things. I know I tell you, you're gonna suffer the consequences, and you're gonna pay a dear price for it. It is terrible. From what is happening right now, from what I'm seeing, it is very, very terrible. We can't afford this. People, y'all think we just cannot afford this. It's a dangerous world out there. We have been distracted so many times. Can you imagine the same fertilizer we're using to put on other plants, which have been changed for over a 10-year period of time, 265 times? That fertilizing system has been upgraded more than 265 times coming to this country from abroad, to put on plants and vegetation for us to eat. That is the destructive part of it. I know it's hard. Some people say, well, they can't plant, they can't grow, they got to take the same money with a walk-in for and go and buy these things. Yeah, but that's where they're tackling you. That's where they're tackling you. Because they know you can't afford to be distracted by planting anything. So the basic thing is that they're going to provide a planting community with subsidies to plant and to create for a consumable market, and they feed you all this poison. Some planters, some farmers doesn't even know what they're growing to feed the population. Some of them know, because some of them blatantly tell you the last election that they're going to poison all the vegetables, so when we eat it, we can dead out. But it's becoming a dangerous situation. Seriously. We got to be brought up to date with what's going on, but the situation is deteriorating daily. If we don't take cognizance of all these things that are happening now, it's going to be hard for us. Imagine how frustrating is it for me to sit down, to do all these research. Sometimes you spend one day on a topic, another day on another topic. Every day is a different topic. And then you realize that because we're not paying attention, we lose out the interest on these things because we cannot comprehend what's going on. You know, ExxonMobil printed in the news media of the Corporation of Guyana that because of excess flaring, the weather condition, the weather climate in the Corporation of Guyana will change. You'll have more hot days and less wet days. And the wet days that you have will be excess amount of water. So you'll have flash flooding. All these things printed in the newspaper. Ask ourselves if we read it. Ask ourselves excess flaring, and if those don't know what a flaring is, go on the internet. They can explain to you flaring. Flaring changes the climate around it because it's like the oil station has to burn off the excess gas. When you're pumping it, when you're drawing the oil out from the side of the soil in that ocean, you have pockets of gas that comes up first, in between, and after. And those pockets of gas that we're talking about is what you call natural gas. This is what I want to create a pipeline from where the gas has been, the oil is being drawn from, and move that gas, that natural gas, to a storage facility so it can be stored and it can be used for electricity purposes and other purposes. That's why they call it the gas pipeline to shore. But because of the excess gas, they have to burn it. And because they can't release it into the atmosphere, they have to burn it, because releasing to the atmosphere is more poison more than when you burn it. When you burn it, it's excess amount of heat. So it's double time dangerous for us. So what will happen? You'll have more hot days. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Walking on the road, the sun is bright and hot. And by the time, and this was going on now, between half an hour after, it's raining like crazy. You call it unstable weather conditions. And it's happening all around you in the Corporation of Guyana. We got to take note of these things. We got to. Because it's not really helping us. Yes, we got to become the food basket or the bread basket of the Caribbean, but we need to have our own food security. That's what was told to us. We need to have our own kitchen garden. We need to start feeding our own selves, clothing our own self, and edifying our own self. Education now comes back, or edification, comes back to the home, where the parent now is responsible for edifying their children, because when you go to the school system, the school is not going to teach you the things that you need to know. That's what's going on now. They reduce through the government program of education, of edification, they reduce the quality of education that you need, that you're supposed to have. And they give you things that they think that you're not supposed to. They take away what you're not supposed to have and give you things that they think that you need to have, which is a lesser form of education. They're now dictating your DNA, your process of edification, which is bad. It's a constant collapse of a system that is means to degrade and to take away your rights as a living soul. It's a terrible thing. I'm sorry to say that, but I gotta sit down and tell you the truth. The foods that you're eating is poisonous. The rice is no good. Whether it come from Caribbean rice or what's the other one? The Muslim name. It doesn't matter. The fertilizers that they're using to speed up the produce of the rice is so detrimental to us. That 2 spoons is deadly, like a dose of potash. It depends on how you cook it and how you eat it. So deadly. We got to remember and take into consideration all these things. All these things. Look, you turn on the television now or you turn on the internet, if it's not about oil and gas, it's about money. But nobody's bringing the things that are becoming a reality presently. Nobody's coming up or advancing the ideas that forwards this reality. It's a dangerous time that we're living in. It is. And if we don't look forward to the things that are affecting us, we're in some serious trouble. We will be in some serious trouble. We will be affected by it. And if we don't sit down and learn and see what's going on and see the effects by consuming these things and to be being how should I put it, over oppressed by an administration or by a system that intends to you to keep on using these things, and then what are we living for? What exactly are we getting out of it? Money? Because money ain't heal you. As far as I know it, money never healed no one. So even if you got money and money not, you still can't be healed. You might live a life that is destructive, because this is what mostly monies do, is got you living a life that is destructive. Because most people who you check, most billionaires that live these lives do not follow the laws of nature. They do not. Some of them do, but most of them don't. They're like the champagne wishes and the caviar dreams. And these are the things that poisons them, either mentally, physically, or spiritually. And you know the billionaires or the millionaires with sense, because most of them don't partake of the things that they promote. We now have to start attracting, how I should put it, gullible things to our edification process. That's what we got to start doing, because we're not getting anywhere. Whether we come out of the system or in the system, we're still doing things that are systematically wrong to our bodies. We're still participating in systematic things that are actually deteriorating us as living souls. And we are still in that deterioration process. We're not out of it. And it is a terrible thing. It's a terrible factor. To me, it's hard, but it's the truth. That's the point. If we don't wake up and realize the things that are destroying us at the end of the day, we wouldn't benefit. We would stand to lose all the time. It's not going to do us any good. We're not. And some of us lives are cut short. Some of us barely live to see 50. Even if we live to see 50, we barely jump 50. And we're dead. We're still young. And sometimes we leave a younger generation to fight off the same things that we spent so many years trying to clear and to fight it off. Now we have a system that is so much oppressive that we now got to waste all this time trying to fight off oppression so we can live a normal life. We can do the things that are right as living souls, as Aboriginal, Indigenous people, American state citizens. Well, I might be the only one in the Corporation of Guyana, but there's some of them. There are lots of them. There's some, and let me tell you how there's some of them, and they don't even know that they're American state citizens. The last names that they're carrying, the titles, not the surname, the titles. You never went to school in here, your teacher asks you, for those who know went to school in the 1990s, in the 1980s, you never hear some teachers ask you, what is your title? They never ask you what's your surname, ask you what is your title. Because we were still living in the edification process that time. So most of you, your title is D-E-Y-D as in dog, E as in egg, and Y as in yellow. There's some of us whose title is B as in bat, E as in egg, and Y as in yellow, like mine, B. You are Moorish ancestral people. You're the original Bantus that never came to this continent as slaves. But it was those who came here, the Caucasites, who tried to enslave us, not even the Caucasites. I don't even like calling them the Caucasites because there's not even Caucasians. You ever check these people ain't got no particular history? Nothing at all. They ain't got nothing to depend to tell them. They call themselves Europeans. They don't even know that Europe means a black woman. Well, an Aboriginal woman whose name was Europa. Imagine, they embrace our culture, took it, not only embrace it, but plagiarize it and bring it right back to us, teaching us it in an education form, not an edification form, in an education form of control. Our own system, they should show you that everything that they teach you is about us, our history, our knowledge. It's about us, our culture, our spiritual beliefs. Now, well, not beliefs, our spiritual arising, because to believe means to doubt. I had to tell a guy the other day, I said, when I speak, I don't speak with the meaning of words, because meaning of words is no meaning at all. It makes no sense. It's a waste of time. I speak with the etymology of words, the manner and the way in which it was created for, the use, not a meaning. To mean something means to waste someone's time. That's why when you speak of the etymon, or when you speak in an etymological way to describe the creation of the word, it's an etymology. That's the only way people will understand or overstand, or what I may say most of the time, comprehend. But these are the facts. I can't hide it. I can't just juggle it and make believe it doesn't exist. We now have to constantly not only tell ourselves, but we got to constantly be able to say to you and others, well, look, this is the truth, and I got to stand by it. You can't tell people, don't do what I do, but do what I say you must do. It makes no sense. Because people are going to question your actions. That is why I have to be the way I am. When I talk, I live what I talk. I preach, I live what I preach. I'm a shining and a simple example of what I preach and teach. I tell people I'm an Aboriginal Moor. I'm not Guyanese. I didn't only surrender my Guyanese citizenship. I don't have to ask permission to do that. But I presented the documentation. And Moors who goes back to their ancestral teachings does not become religious people. I mean, I got some that are religious, fine, that there's a choice. You still have that choice. But Moors like myself, we're not religious. So what I did, I step away from the church. I no longer sit down and praise this and praise that and do all these things. My life is a life of an Aboriginal Bantu Moor, an American state citizen. That's who I am. Interdependent from an independent nation. I'm self-governed. I am self-law. That is why we say Islam. I self-law am master. We're not the master of you. We become the master of our lives and our household. That's why we're kings and queens. The husband is the king and the queens are, the wives are the queens. Some people call them priestess or goddess or empress and emperor and king. That's the point. We just don't identify ourselves as Guyanese or Venezuelans or Brazilians. We identify ourselves in the name of our household. Which household are you from? Oh, I'm from the household of Matthews-Bey. Which household are you from? Oh, she's from the household of Kenneth Bey. These are the facts. So we know where we come from. We know which household we're from. And that's where our lineage comes from. Our lineage doesn't come from the Corporation of Guyana. The Corporation of Guyana is an enslaved system. But see, I don't want to talk about these things because people get upset when I say slavery. But if you check the etymology of the word servant, it derived from the word slave. But that's the proper pronunciation of servant. To be a slave. But somehow some people get upset and anger about it. But these are the facts. I tell people I once was a slave, but I freed myself. I didn't have to seek emancipation because to be emancipated, Y'all check the etymology of this word, They have the app. To those who are looking, they have an etymology app in Play Store or in the App Store. I can tell you because I know about it. I got it on my phone. And if you check the etymology of the word to emancipate, you wouldn't even want to go celebrate emancipation the 1st of August. Because those people on the other side, they sit down and laugh at me when going and celebrate emancipation. Oh my gosh, look, these fools. Because to emancipate means to transfer one's property to another owner. That's what it means. So your Guyanese process of emancipation happened in 1966 when the British Guyana transferred their subjects to the Corporation of Guyana. That's what you call emancipation. And you know what? The reparations that they're talking about, it is to pay your owners, pay the people who owned you at one particular time for that emancipation process. You call it reparations. That's why when you go to Haiti or you call it Haiti and you mention reparations, then people don't want to even know reparations. They want to stone you because they know what reparations is. Haiti had to pay France reparations of $500 billion. $500 billion. Because Haiti not only declared themselves as an independent nation, interdependent nation, but they did not seek freedom from France. So you know what France did? France says you take your own will and you move yourself from me because I am the property of you. Well, then you got to give me reparations. Because you can't exist as an island. Until to this day, Haiti's paying reparations. They have, I think it's 20-point-something billion left back. All them years paying reparations. They give them a figure to pay reparations because they thought they would have gone back to the arms and the bosoms of France. But they're still showing them rebellion and revolution because they're not. That is reparations. Can you imagine what I'm talking about now? We need to take ourselves through this process of edification where we know where we stand as a people. And I may use the words correctly or incorrectly, but as a people, our persona has to be that straight. You can't bend it, twist it, or turn it. That's why when I look at my brothers and sisters on the continent of Kemet or Kush, I speak to them as Kushites or Nubians or Nubites or Moabites. That's how I speak to them. Or Swahilians. I don't say Africans because I know where the word Africa derived from. One man give the continent he thinks to his wife because she deserves it, and he named it after himself, Africa, because his name was Africanus. We gotta be real. Because these Homo sapiens that are here are completely destroying our culture. And they call it Europeanize. And some of us feel, well, okay, Europeanize means Homo sapiens, Caucasians. No. We controlled Europe for over 400 years. We existed before 1411. And 1411 is when they talk about the Zulu general that crossed that particular as Amazonas, the Riviera, to meet into Brazil. You think Brazil has one of the largest population of African, or you call it Aboriginal people that living outside of the continent of Kemet, 100 million strong plus. But if you check their heritage didn't came to Brazil by slavery. Their heritage came to Brazil because that was their homeland, and it still is. They were there before the continental drift, and they were there after the continental drift. Means that in that utopia, before it drifted and it formed what we call it North and South America continent, and we call it the Australian continent, the European continent, and the African, all them continent was together. It was one great landmass. But the schools are not going to teach you that these continents separated over a period of time because of the Earth's crust that were constantly shifting. But we were there. This is our homeland. And they come telling you, but they brought you across the Atlantic Ocean on a ship bound as slaves, or the Pacific Ocean, or wherever ocean you bring you across on. They used to call it the Aegean, the Great Aegean. Well, the Caucasites or the what you call it again? I'm trying to remember the name, but I want to have completely for them. The Homo sapiens. But they don't want you to teach critical race theory in school because they don't want people to know what is a true comprehension of the word race and theory. It's a myth. And they call that myth privileged. And they exercise that myth constantly, every day. They don't want you to know that they're bluffing. But I talk about this because I need you to comprehend what is it that you're faced with constantly, every day, the continuous destruction of a people. The complete barbarism that we're going through. Now, not we, you. Because most of us has to comprehend that even the word we is an adjective. It's sad. It's really, really sad and destructive to know that we got to go through these things every single day, and it's a destructive element to us. It's sad. And some people are compelled to it because they cannot come out of it. They've already sold their birthrights. You never hear? Selling birthrights. Look at the Aboriginal politicians that are in the PPP that I call house slaves, because they are servants. You check. They are bound by contract. It's a tract for a con. Piece of paper. That's why you call it a contract. Check out the etymology of it. You're bound by a contract to con you. So when you wake up and you realize where you are, you cannot come out of it because you're on that tract. You have your signature to it. You call it a contract. So your duty is to enslave your people. So when they dress up in their African outfit or their the Kemethian outfits and walk down their Emancipation Day, talk about celebration, no. It's hypocrisy. Because we already know who they are. They can't fool us. But having this conversation with you constantly is something that I take very much pride in doing, and I feel that I'm being doing it long enough to feel that, well, look, you deserve it. You deserve my time. And I want to say this, that things are not that the way it is, but the Dr. Matthews-Bey Unfiltered program here on YouTube does, and Facebook does, need your contributions in order for me to function properly, in order for this show to function properly. So for those who are willing to contribute, the number is still the same number on the screen, mostly by WhatsApp. And those who are locally home in Guyana, I'll be giving you that information too. So please call the number 592-611-6575. Text it or WhatsApp it. I'd be very much appreciated. Tonight's shows come to you the compliments of Event Management Services, Greenleaf Distributors, and Black Love. That is a brand that is owned by Omakit, which is controlled by me. I am Dr. Matthews-Bey saying stay safe, be careful, sanitize yourself, wear a mask. And don't forget the little ones you take in the public places. Once again, this is Dr. Matthews-Bey and Dr. Matthews-Bey Unfiltered saying good night and Cheerios for now.